What is the Muslim space? Where can I find this fabled place? It's brought up whenever internal issues emerge within the Muslim community. How do I reach this place? And, more importantly, will I be allowed and welcomed in? Hello everyone and welcome to The Shift with Maryyum. I'm Mahmood, bringing you a new and informative video every Wednesday. Today's topic is misogyny in the Muslim space. To preface, I am acutely aware that the issues that I address are by no means exclusive to Muslims. Obviously, religion is abused and employed as a tool, as can be any ideology or set of practices for that matter. Essentially, if the purpose is to ensure order and stability by vesting complete authority in the hands of a few key figures, that too without much consideration of accountability or transparency, then it is almost inevitable that we find ourselves in a playing field of power grabbing amongst elites. Power is what props the patriarchy. Power, underpinned by piety, is what deepens this dangerous dynamic. So, what is misogyny, and how is it manifest in Muslim spaces? Misogyny is a dislike, prejudice of, or deep-seated hatred towards women. And what of the Muslim space, or rather spaces? This is simply wherever we can find pockets of Muslims, where Muslims congregate, come together, live their lives, and feel safe. Surely then, this space should also be safe for Muslim women. But what happens in the Muslim space that enables for misogyny to fester? Now, the irony is that when you raise your voice against violence directed towards women, when you stand up to set the record straight and overturn abuses, certain men and women who benefit from upholding the patriarchal structures of power, systems of oppression, unfortunately, they try their very best to drown out your voice, chastise you, shun you, and disown you as some sort of dissenter. I've been documenting how they react and respond, and it occurred to me that there is a pattern here, certain steps that they tend to follow. So, being the researcher that I am, I decided to typologize these responses, which I call the 7 Ds through which both patrons and pawns of the patriarchy misconstrue, obscure, and malign Muslimas. The 7 Ds are denial, deflection, debate, dawah, distraction, distance, and demonization. Step 1. Denial. This is when they outright refute the very existence of misogyny as some sort of hoax or lie. According to them, it just simply does not exist in Muslim spaces. Step 2. Deflection. Now, this entails detracting any blame from the perpetrator. We're met with assertions like, "This happens everywhere." Sure it does, there's no denying that. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't hold culprits to account. Moving on to step 3. Debate. This is very interesting because debate would imply some form of discussion, a dialogue. But what happens is, claims of misogyny are dismissed further. And instead, you're met with a form of offensive attack, whereby one is presented with archetypal examples of Muslim women in power. Now, whether it's the iconic Benazir Bhutto of Pakistan, or Khalida Zia and Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh, or even Sukarno Putri of Indonesia, the clout and prestige afforded to them is still very much a result of them being part of a dynasty. They're still, first and foremost, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's mother, or somebody's wife. This brings us to step 4, dawah. When reality fails them, they resort to bringing up examples found in scriptures of the Muslim women of heaven, or the Prophet, peace be upon him's family, the Ahlul Bayt, blessings be upon them. Now, these examples are used to gaslight ordinary Muslim women who have been abused, suggesting in a way that these women were deserving of the abuse that they received, because they weren't living up to the example of revered figures, the most pious of women. Of course, passing judgment is commonplace, because we're so fixated on the way in which a Muslim woman looks or presents herself, instead of paying heed to what these women are experiencing, what they are facing. This brings us to number 5, distraction. Now, when you raise your voice against misogyny in Muslim communities, you're reminded that your gripes must be dealt with and contained within the Muslim space, lest Islamophobes catch wind and weaponize your very grievances against you and your community. What do we gain from living in fear? It brings us to step number 6, distance. At this point, they begin to disengage from the conversation, remove themselves from this discussion, claim that, not in my backyard, it doesn't happen. They remind us, not all Muslim men. Well, great to know that many of you were raised right by your mothers and fathers. But saying this won't solve the problem. Saying, sorry you experienced this, or sorry that you're hurt, does not alleviate the situation. Please stop treating each incident of abuse as some sort of exception to a rule, when there are countless examples right in front of you. Finally, we come to step number 7, demonization. At this point, as a woman who is raising her voice against misogyny, you are denounced as deranged. They ridicule your assertions, lambast you, discredit you, and malign you as purporting some sort of agenda against the Muslim community. All this does is lead to further divisiveness. It does nothing to dismantle the violent patriarchal structures upholding our societies. It just further fuels and entrenches the normalization of hatred towards women. If you claim to be an ally of women and girls, do better. Speak out against this abuse. Stand up to misogyny. And put an end to the patriarchy. Do not mistake it for something valued within Islam. To be clear, our existence is not tied to your honor. Your Islam is not in jeopardy if we speak up. Stop relegating Muslim women to the peripheries and the fringes of this Muslim space. Tokenized and silenced, with our faith weaponized against us. So when we are told to confine discussions around misogyny to the Muslim space, I implore you, fix up this space ASAP. Right now, it is exclusive, intolerant, a place for denialism, and the normalization of abuses, all the while shrouded by faith. What more do you want? Muslim women are often asked. Besides women in robust leadership roles and actualizing ourselves as more than just mere tokens in the Muslim community, I would like to see Muslim women treated as equal human beings. Simply put, what I want to see is Muslim women living without fear inside this Muslim space. I ask that we stop normalizing abusers. There needs to be a complete social boycott of those who repeatedly abuse and offend. Instead, what we see is Quite unfortunately, these men are pedestaled as leaders, as scholars, glorified, because you say their goodness cannot be dismissed. No, that is exactly the problem. What message is that sending? That the Muslim space is okay with misogyny. It's acceptable to abuse and violate Muslim women and still be championed within your communities. But if you are a Muslim woman, your abusers will be honoured, respected, dignified, and even celebrated. This is no short of victim blaming. If we wish to have constructive conversations in the Muslim space, first, let's ensure that these spaces aren't breathing grounds for toxic masculinity. They aren't a prop for the patriarchy. And that we rid these spaces of misogynistic violence against women. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like and share. And also remember to subscribe to my channel. Join me every Wednesday for a new and informative video right here on The Shift with Maryyum. Thanks for watching.